Well, hello again, and welcome to our second part of our study of Exodus through the Bible book by book. Today we're going to pick up with the Israelites on the other side of the Red Sea. It's what we're supposed to see first is the people no sooner than they get out of Egypt than they begin to complain about their lot in life and what's going on around them. They have no food, they have no water, and they are setting themselves up for the theme of Exodus. We see two themes. Number one, the people are constantly complaining. They don't trust God. They're not working with God. In fact, in many ways, they're working against God. This is, if you remember, what Abraham struggled with early on in his life as he tried to work with God. The people are trying to learn how to work with God. And God is constantly providing through miraculous means. The people need food, God provides manna. The people need food, God provides quail. The people need water, God provides water. The people need healing, God provides healing. Everything the people need, God consistently provides. This is going to be very prominent, especially in as we see in the book of Numbers, in some of the stories of the book of Numbers, where God is the constant provision for the people as they wander through the wilderness and they learn what it means to become God's people. They go out, they leave, and in a month they're at Sinai. And here we see God talking to the people. The story kind of implies that the people now are camped at the mountain where Moses first had his great encounter with God. And God appears yet again. God is consistent in appearing at the mountain. And God says to the people, "Do you want to be part of the covenant that I have made with your ancestors?" And the people say yes, wholeheartedly. And God says, okay. And just like God said to Moses, "This is holy ground, take off your sandals," God says to the people, "Prepare yourselves, for the ground you're on is holy, and in 3 days I'm going to be here." And the people prepare themselves, and God meets with the people and gives them the Ten Commandments. Now, the Ten Commandments are the shorthand, the shorthand version of the covenant between God and Israel. Here's how you are supposed to act as my people. They include things like do not have other gods. Do not worship other gods. You are going to be exclusive to me. They include I guess the one that I harp on the most, the two, I guess, that I harp on the most. Do not take up my name as though it were nothing. And that doesn't mean use God's name inappropriately. That means do not be called one of my people when you have no business being called one of my people. Don't call yourself, in this case, an Israelite. Do not call yourself a person of the covenant when you're not keeping the covenant. It's much bigger than just misspeaking. It is about do not take on the responsibilities of, or do not take on the name of Israelite. Do not, in modern cases, do not take on the name of Christian if you have no thought for the responsibilities that go along with that. And then keep the Sabbath. This is another one that I like to harp on, which is more than just take a break on Sunday or Saturday in this case. It is about taking time out of your life to recognize the importance of God. It's taking this day. I love Walter Brueggemann's little book. It's a very little book. I think it's like 90 pages on the Sabbath as resistance. Sabbath is about, shorthand version, taking time away from the normal routine of life to recognize God provides me with everything I need. It's a time for family. It's a time for fun. It's a time for relaxation and rejuvenation. It's a time for worship. It is taking a day to act like you are living in the Garden of Eden. That's really essentially what it comes down to. Take a day apart to act like you're in the Garden of Eden, where you don't have to work for your food is provided, where you don't have to go to work and get into the 9 to 5 of money and commercialism. You take the time to act like this is paradise. That's what living in the Sabbath means. It's not simply about taking a day off. That is both less than that is less than what the Sabbath really means. It's just a kind of a cardboard cutout of what the real thing is. It's very much less than. Don't take life. Remember, life is sacred to God. Respect your family. Respect your neighbors. Live in an appropriate manner where you are not the center of the world, is essentially what it comes down to. I think that these are it's wonderful. We should note that while we always have called them the 10 words or the 10 laws, nobody's quite clear on what the 10 actually are. There's different ways to read them, different breakdowns of 10 depending on how you read it. I think that's kind of intentional. The number 10 is often symbolic for, again, completing or fulfilling. The number 7, 10, and 3, 7, 10, 12 are usually completion. They all represent kind of completion, and so we should pay attention to them. These are the 10 words of God, but nobody really has there's no clear way of breaking them down. And different lists give them out differently. So we have to accept that and recognize that there are 10. But this is an all-encompassing reality. We then are given some guidelines in chapters 21, 22, and 23 that tell us how to live as if we are the people of God, the community of God. We're taught this is what you do as God's people. These are just some basic commands that you're going to live by. You're going to be just to the poor. You're going to treat the immigrant with respect. You're going to treat women with respect. You're going to treat even your worst enemy, you're going to treat them with care and respect. I love that in chapter 23, where if you see someone who hates you or somebody that you hate, and their donkey is struggling, don't just pass by. Help with the donkey. I mean, seriously. In our world today, we like to talk about karma and people getting what's coming to them. God's saying, even if you see this person you hate, who you believe is getting what's coming to them, stop what you're doing and make their life easier. That is the complete antithesis of karma. And that's what's in the Bible. In chapter 24, the Israelites ratify this covenant. They say, yes, this is the people group we want to be. We want to live like God wants us to live. They take the time to sacrifice, and then God calls Moses up to the mountain. This is just like if you go back and watch the videos on the first part of Genesis. This is just like Abraham in Genesis 12 through 19. No sooner is Moses up the mountain, no sooner do the people say, yes, we want this covenant, than we get the story of the golden calf in Exodus 32. Don't make idols. We'll make an idol. Don't worship other gods. We'll worship other gods. Treat people with respect. Treat your family and your neighbors with respect. We're going to have a drunken orgy. That's the people that's humanity in many ways. But this is the people that God has chosen to work with. Us. I like to say to my wife quite frequently, people are idiots. It's too bad I'm people. We are. This is stereotypical humanity right here in Exodus 32. But it also shows us who God is. God is this this person who's going to work with us. We do see that even God gets mad and decides to wipe out the people. This is one of these, again, just as God sent the test to Abraham with Isaac in Genesis, Moses rejected God's commission to the people in Exodus 3. And for every rejection in Exodus 3, here after the people sin and God says, I'm going to just wipe them out and start over with you. For every one of those rejections that Moses had earlier in the book, Moses comes back to God and says, hey, don't wipe them out. And if you do, wipe me out too. For every time Moses didn't want to go with the people in Exodus 3, here Moses wants to be associated with the people in Exodus 32. Moses reverses. And what we're supposed to see in this is not God. Well, we are supposed to see God's anger a little bit, that God is upset with the sin and the rebellion, and that God just does not tolerate that. But we're also supposed to see God's forgiveness, God's generosity. These people who deserve to be abandoned are not. And we're supposed to see how life with God, Moses, again, in chapter 3, has never had life with God. By the end of the book, he's had years of experience with God. We're supposed to see how life with God changes us into God's representatives and to make us like God. Moses takes on God's character the same way Abraham took on God's character. And God says, okay, I will relent. You don't have to, you can be associated with this people. I won't kill them. I won't destroy them. They are my people. I will hold to covenant with them, even though they broke it. Even though they just broke the covenant, I'm going to hold true. And then we see God saying, here's how to build the tabernacle. Let's go out and build the tabernacle. And we see this kind of, again, there's a repetition here in the building of the tabernacle, kind of around the golden calf issue, that God is restoring the people of Israel. They're going to go from, we want to be in covenant, here's how you keep holy, to we're going to break covenant, and then a kind of a reversal of all of everything that's gone on in the previous few chapters. There's this reversal of here's how to build the covenant again. And we close the book of Exodus on this idea of the tabernacle meaning God's tent, God creating a place to dwell with the people. God is always present on the mountain. We said that earlier. That's why they go to the mountain in Exodus 20. Now God is building them a place for the portable presence, the divine presence to go. That's what we kind of think of. God will shift from having a house on the mountain to having a house with the people. This is God condescending to people. These people can't live here on the mountain. I will make myself more humble to be with them. And that's where Exodus closes. But here's where I want you to see something. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Well, at least the first four were definitely written as one book. They were one continuous story. And so while we we drop off what we call Exodus with chapter 40, Leviticus is going to pick up in the exact same spot. You could actually just continue reading. You could read the first 4 books of the Bible as one giant book, telling us how Israel got to the place where it is. So when we pick up next time, we're going to pick up with Leviticus, and it's going to be it's going to be this idea of God has now given us a place to interact with God. God is going to be dwelling personally with us. How do we make sure we live lives that are appropriate for those who God dwells with? In other words, God is now part of our community. How do we make sure we live our lives in a way that reflects God and honors the fact that God is with us? That's what the book of Leviticus is all about, and we will talk about that a little more next time. Until we meet again, God bless.